During the march of the Wagner troops towards Moscow, information appeared on Russian telegram channels that the governor of the Tula region, Aleksey Dyumin, could take the post of Minister of Defense of the Federation after the upcoming personnel changes. Later, Russian propagandists wrote that Dyumin helped stop the Prigozhin rebellion.
He himself categorically denies this, but again, there is quite a lot of evidence that he took part in the negotiations between the Kremlin on the one hand, Yevgeny Prigozhin and Utkin on the other hand. In principle, the further development of the situation will show where the truth is, because if there are some personal changes and Aleksey Dyumin gets fairly high positions, this may become an indirect confirmation of his role in the events that are now called an attempt by Prigozhin's rebellion.
Prigozhin and Dyumin have known each other for a long time. At the time when PMC Wagner was formed and the first mercenaries were sent to Syria, Aleksey Dyumin was the deputy head of the main department of the General Staff and the head of the Special Operations Forces. At the same time, preparations were underway for the invasion of Russian troops into the Donetsk and Luhansk regions of Ukraine. But for the last 9 years, Dyumin have been in charge of the Tula region.
He got there from Putin's guards. He is one of the most devoted and loyal guards to Putin, who worked in the Federal Protective Service and then already got the governor's job. Obviously, when he was on guard, he interacted quite closely with all the people who, say, were in the circle and had access to Putin. Therefore, I don't think that Dyumin personally was involved in the formation of the Wagner PMC, but I think he was privy to all these problems, all these affairs.
Representatives of the Russian opposition doubt that Dyumin played a key role in stopping the Prigozhin rebellion. However, there is no doubt that he is striving to occupy one of the highest leadership positions in the country.
Dyumin himself generally claims some higher positions, someone calls him a successor, a candidate for succession, someone reads him for the post of Minister of Defense. Therefore, probably there could be some negotiations. That is, I do not rule out that they simply have a personal relationship and perhaps Dyumin conducted some negotiations, but it is obvious that the FSB played the main role there.
Experts do not rule out the scenario with a more or less voluntary transfer of the presidential chair. After all, even the failed rebellion showed Putin's weakness and lack of support, both among the population and in the elite. Devoted to Putin, Dyumin is one of the likely presidential candidates.
This march on Moscow, it became a catalyst for fermentation within the Russian elites, and now the likelihood of the successor operation has slightly increased. All the same, during the attempted rebellion, the Russian president himself looked frankly unconvincing. This was noticeable to both the elites and the population. Therefore, in any case, their system of governance will now change, and the personal power of Vladimir Putin will decrease, and one of the consequences of this may be the consensus of the elites that there will be a new president in Russia. The system will be rebooted, and among other things, the system of relations will be rebooted with the West and Ukraine.
In the event of such a transit of power in Russia, experts advise not to count on the liberalization of the country. But if the towers of the Kremlin in the struggle for power begin to destroy each other, the democratic forces will have a chance to seize the initiative. Reported by Roman Smoler, Larissa Zubenko, UA TV News.